right, so today we're going to take a look at domain and range in some real life scenarios, just making sure that we totally understand how domain and range works. Because it does change when we're talking about real life scenarios. So let's start by just refreshing ourselves in terms of what is domain, what is range in an exponential function. In a normal function where we don't have any limits or any scenario to kind of work from. So we know that domain is the set of x's. Okay, domain is our x's and range is our y's. So that's never going to change. And when we're looking at domain of an exponential function, when I'm not given a scenario, it is always going to be the all real numbers. So remember, this double-legged R stands for the all real numbers. Okay, so both of these are going to have a domain of all real numbers. And every single time we have an exponential function that is not a word problem, it is going to be a domain of all real numbers. That's never going to change. What changes is our range, okay? Because we're going to have greater than, or we are going to have less than. So it's less than if it's going down and it's below 0, and it's greater than if it's above 0. Okay, so it depends on where the tail is. So we're going to start by drawing a line where our tail is. Okay, and we're going to take a look at where the numbers are. So I see that these numbers are bigger than the line. Okay, and so these numbers are smaller than the line. So this one is a less than, and this one is a greater than. So I'm starting with real numbers. And I'm starting with 0 on both of these because the tail is at 0. And it's not always going to be at 0, but on these two it is. So this first one, since it's greater than, it's going up, it's greater than 0. Real numbers greater than 0. So you might see it written real numbers greater than 0, or you might see real numbers greater than 0. Now, this one is going down, so less than 0. Okay, it's going to be approaching, so it's going to be starting up by 0, and it's going to be going down. Remember, negatives cause us to go down. You're going to keep it underneath the x-axis. Okay, let's take a look at these 4. So we'll notice that these 4, the tails are not at 0. And the domain, I'm going to go ahead and put in here real numbers because they're all real numbers. These are not word problems. Okay, and let's start by highlighting our tail. So I see that my tail is coming across here, 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 and here. And let's figure out whether we are increasing or decreasing. So this one is going down, this one is up, this one is also up, and so is this one. So even if it's a decay, it may not necessarily be less than, okay? Because I could have a decay that does this, and it would still be greater than 0, okay? So I know that I have real numbers. This one is less than, but it's not 0, it's at -4. If I take a look at where this is, it's at -4, so it's less than -4. So this range, this one is going to be real numbers greater than 2 because it's above the 2. Okay, hit pause, see what you can do with these two ranges. Okay, so this one greater than -8 because I see it's crossing at -8, and this one is crossing at 6. Okay, so it's going above 6, above -8. So that's how it works if I don't have a scenario. Okay, let's take a look at a couple problems that do. So this one, Tina bought a painting while on vacation in 2009. The table below shows the value of the painting in 2009, 2010, 2011. If this trend continues, what will the value of the painting be in 2030? So what I really want to talk about, rather than coming up with the answer, is the domain and range. Okay, the domain and range. So I want you to think about what this really is a table. So as a table, my x value and my y value, my x value, so that the first year I bought it, which was time 0, it was $75. The first year, which was 2010, was $68.50. The second year was 2011, went to $104.43. So I see that this is going up. Well, does it actually have a domain of all real numbers? So am I going to have, if I draw a line right here, oops, that's not a very good line. Let me go ahead and put a real line in there. So let me draw kind of a modified x-axis in here at the starting point. So this is my kind of modified x-axis. So this is years. So here's 0, here's 1, here's 2, here's 3, etc. Okay? So am I going to use negative numbers? Am I going to have any number over here at negative 10? Am I even going to pay attention to this part of the graph? No, I don't have that section of the graph because years can't be negative. So my years are starting at 0 and going up. Okay, so my domain is actually real numbers greater than or equal to 0 because I do have a starting point this time. Okay, my starting point was $68 and it's going up. So times 0, I'm only looking at the positives. Okay, I'm only looking at the positives because there's no such thing as negative years. Well, what about my Y value? Well, if I take a look at what happened here, this was $88. I started at $75 and I went up from there. So am I technically down at 0? Can I go less than $75 with this pattern? No, I'm starting at $75. So I'm talking about real numbers greater than or equal to 75 because I actually have a starting point. Okay, I'm not going to have any numbers in the Y value that's less than 75. I'm not going to have 60, I'm not going to have 50, I'm not going to have 40. So I don't look at any other portion of the graph. And in actuality, this side is gone and this side is gone. So I'm only looking at quadrant 1 because that's my starting point. I can only have positive money. I can't have negative money. And I also can't be less than $75. Okay, let's look at another one. So this one, we have the price of a car. The purchase price is $24,000. The value of the car decreases over the years. Okay, so I'm looking at kind of quadrant 1 here. I do know that I have negative numbers here and I have negative numbers here. So my domain, am I going to make use of the negative years? No, I'm not. So my domain is real numbers greater than or equal to 0 because I'm starting at 0 and I'm going to the right. It doesn't make any sense to have negative years. What about my range? Well, now this is interesting because I started at $24,000, so I know this part of the graph is gone. I can't have anything more than $24,000. That is what my price was. So it's coming down and it's approaching 0. Is it ever going to go below that 0 line? No. And is it ever going to reach 0? No. So I'm actually between 24,000 and 0. Okay, so how can I write an inequality for that? Well, there's two ways I could do it. I could write it as real numbers less than or equal to 24,000 and real numbers greater than, I'm not going to be greater than or equal to, greater than 0. Or I could write that as an and inequality where I have, I'm going to go ahead and put my my y in there because that's my variable y. I'm less than or equal to 24,000, but I am greater than 0. So you'll see it like that. Sometimes you'll see it this way, but normally we see it with the y in the center. But this is actually an and inequality. I'm between 0 and $24,000. Okay, I'm not going to have anything less than 0. It doesn't make any sense for it to have a negative value for a car. All right, so see what you can do with your assignment today. Reach out to us if you're struggling, and we'll catch up with you tomorrow.